The call came in at 11:04 p.m., and something about it felt wrong before the man had finished his first sentence. My name is Alice. I've worked the switchboard at Mercy General Hospital in Miami for 3 years, and I've heard everything. Crying children, drunk men threatening to sue, terrified mothers reading symptoms off, WebMD at 2 a.m. You develop a kind of emotional callus after a while. You have to. But that night, the callus failed me. "Hello, how may I help you?" I said, the words so automatic they barely required thought. The pause on the other end lasted exactly 2 seconds too long. "I'm calling to ask how to make a girl happy again." Male voice, mid-40s. Maybe. Flat. Not the flatness of shyness. The flatness of someone choosing their words very carefully. The way you choose your footing crossing a frozen lake. I sat up slightly. Around me, the overnight control room hummed with the low vibration of fluorescent lights and distant monitors. My colleague Darnell was on the far end of the room, headset on, eyes down. The building beyond our glass partition was a cathedral of quiet, corridors and sleeping patients. I'd be very willing to help with that. "Sir," I said, keeping my voice professionally warm. "May I ask your name?" "Logan." "Mr. Logan, is this person your wife?" "A family member." Another pause. When he spoke again, there was something almost amused in his tone, like a man watching someone walk toward a door he already knows is locked. "No, we just met. About 2 hours ago. A beat." I've already forgotten her name. The air in the room didn't change. The lights didn't flicker. Nothing cinematic happened, but something in my chest went very still. "How is she doing right now?" I asked. He considered this. I could hear him breathing, slow, measured, almost theatrical. "Scared," he said. "She's crying." Shaking quite a bit. I kept my voice level, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Can I speak with her, Mr. Logan?" "No. Immediate. Certain. I want to take care of her myself. That's why I'm calling you." Every nerve in my body was standing at attention now. But I forced myself to stay conversational. People in crisis can bolt if they sense you've shifted gears. I needed his address. I needed time. "I understand," I said. "Can you tell me where you are right now? Just so I can better advise you." He laughed softly. The sound turned my stomach. "Let me think for a moment," he said. "There are so many people here, so many. All of them lying quietly at my feet." I didn't breathe. "Just kidding," he said pleasantly, and then rattled off an address. My fingers moved fast. I typed while he spoke, pulling up the map. The location resolved into a small structure near the Westwood Municipal Cemetery, about 20 kilometers from the hospital. A guardhouse, remote. No neighboring buildings for at least a quarter mile. Then I heard it. A sound from behind him. Low, rhythmic, muffled. A moan that didn't come freely. The sound of someone making noise through something clamped over their mouth. "Is everything all right there, sir?" "Oh," casual, mild. "She's a little resistant." I don't like that. A dull, heavy impact. Like a fist meeting something that gave. "Mr. Logan, please, if I could just speak to—" The moan cut off. Not faded. Cut. Replaced by a wet sound I don't have a word for. A sound that didn't belong in the world of normal things. My hands were shaking now. I was already opening the emergency dispatch window on my second monitor. Fingers blurring across the keyboard. She's not looking at me with those angry eyes anymore. Logan said conversationally. "She's sleeping on the floor." I dispatched the police unit and ambulance in the same keystroke. Flagging it critical, high priority. Officer response requested. My hands moved on the keyboard while my voice stayed even and professional. I asked him to stay on the line. I told him help was on the way. Letting him believe. I meant help for the girl's emotional state, not 6 patrol units converging on a cemetery guardhouse. He laughed one more time, soft, satisfied, and hung up. I sat in the silence for 18 minutes until the first radio confirmation came through. What the officers found in that guardhouse I will not describe in full. What I will say is this: there was no surviving victim. There was evidence of what had been done, slowly, methodically, over what investigators later estimated was a span of 2 to 3 hours. The cameras in the cemetery had been removed. The security monitors smashed. Every forensic surface had been wiped or contaminated. Logan, if that was even his name, was gone. I went home at 6 a.m. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table and watched the sunrise, and thought about the 2-second pause at the start of that call. I thought about all the calls I'd fielded on autopilot, the callus I'd built up, and how I'd been 3 questions too slow. I kept telling myself I'd dispatch them as fast as I could. The officers confirmed it. My response time was within protocol. but protocol didn't save her. And that's a sentence I've been living inside ever since. 7 nights later, I was back on the overnight shift. It had been a brutal week. 3 trauma cases, a chemical exposure on the south side that flooded us with calls, a cardiac cluster in the geriatric wing that kept Darnell and me chained to our boards for 6 straight hours. By midnight, I was running on cold coffee and stubbornness. The phone rang at 12:17 a.m. I answered it with the same trained reflex. "Mercy General, how may I direct your call?" Silence. Then, "Do you remember me?" The coffee cup slipped in my hand. Not enough to spill, just enough to remind me that my hands were capable of fear. I knew the voice immediately. The flatness, the careful placement of each word, the faint amusement underneath, like a man who'd already read the last page of the book. Before I could respond, he started talking. He described my hair, the exact shade, dark auburn, shoulder length, pulled back on the left side with a small clip. He described the color of my scrubs. He described the mole on the back of my neck that I'd had since I was 16 and that I never thought about. I stood up from my chair so fast it rolled back and hit the wall behind me. I spun around and looked through the glass partition, into the corridor, empty. I looked at the ceiling. The ventilation grate. The smoke detector. The junction where the wall met the drop ceiling in the far corner. Nothing, no one, but he had seen me, recently tonight. His laughter came through the phone like something physical. Low, slow, designed to get inside you. "Do you want to spend a memorable night with me?" he asked. I hit the emergency security alert with my palm. I was already moving toward Darnell, phone still pressed to my ear, when the overhead lights flickered once, just once, and the corridor beyond the glass went completely dark. The darkness lasted 4 seconds. That's how long the backup generator takes to kick in at Mercy General. 4 seconds that felt like I was standing at the bottom of a well. When the emergency lighting came on, bathing the corridor in that sickly amber glow, I was gripping Darnell's arm hard enough to leave marks. "Hey, Alice, what?" "Lock the door," I said. "Right now. Lock the booth door and call building security." Darnell looked at my face and didn't ask questions. Logan was still on the line. I hadn't hung up, partly because I didn't want to lose any chance of a trace, partly because some instinct told me that silence would be worse than his voice. At least while he was talking, I knew where he wasn't. "The lights went out," he observed pleasantly. "How inconvenient for you." "Where are you?" I asked. My voice surprised me, steady, professional. The training was deeper than the fear. "Closer than last week," he said. And then softer. "I liked watching you work. You're very dedicated. That phone call, you did everything right, you know. Don't blame yourself." The booth door locked with a heavy click. Darnell was already on the security line. I could hear him reading off our location, his voice low and controlled. A veteran of overnight shifts, who'd dealt with enough chaos to know that panic was a luxury you couldn't afford. "Logan," I said carefully, "the person you hurt last week, did you know her?" A pause, the kind that meant he was deciding whether I deserved an answer. "No," he said, "but I know you." Security confirmed 2 minutes out. Police dispatch. Because Darnell had apparently called them simultaneously. Bless him. Confirmed a unit was already in the building. Someone had reported a man loitering in the east stairwell 40 minutes ago. The officer responding had found nothing, but had stayed on site. I told Logan that help was coming. I said it calmly, directly. The way you tell someone something you want them to hear clearly. He went quiet for a long moment. I could hear him breathing. "You're trying to keep me on the line," he said. "Yes," I said, "I am." Another pause. Then something unexpected happened. He laughed, not the slow predatory laugh from before. Something shorter, almost genuine. "Honest," he said, as if adding it to a list of observations about me. "Okay, Alice." The line went dead. Security reached our booth in 90 seconds. The police officer from the east stairwell arrived 40 seconds after that. Radio crackling, hand on his holster. They swept the floor, every corridor, every storage closet, the maintenance shaft behind the boiler room. They found signs of him. A small camera, no larger than a coat button, adhered to the underside of the ledge outside our booth's window, facing inward, angled toward my workstation. Forensics later confirmed. It had been placed there within the previous 36 hours. The footage it had captured was already transmitting to an encrypted, remote address they were never able to fully trace. He had been watching me work for over a day before he called. The police interviewed me for 2 hours. They were careful and professional and told me I'd handled both calls correctly. They assigned a detective to the case.
They told me to report anything unusual, any feeling of being watched, any contact.
I nodded and answered every question and then went home and sat on my bathroom floor for a long time, running hot water until it went cold, thinking about a mole on the back of my neck and a man who knew it was there. That was 8 months ago. I still work the switchboard at Mercy General. I moved apartments twice. I changed my route to work every week for the first 3 months. I bought a deadbolt for my bathroom door. Not the front door. The bathroom, because that's where I felt most exposed after that night. And sometimes fear is not rational, but it is instructive. Logan has not been identified. The detective on the case calls me every few weeks. He is thorough and clearly frustrated. The button camera yielded partial data. The phone number used both times was routed through a series of servers that dead-ended in Eastern Europe. The cemetery security guard's case remains open. I've thought a lot about what Logan said in that final call, that I did everything right. I've tried to figure out whether that was manipulation, a kind of cruelty dressed as comfort, or something else entirely. Whether he was the kind of person who genuinely believed that. What I've settled on is this: it doesn't matter. The outcome doesn't change based on his intentions toward me. A woman died in a guardhouse beside a cemetery, and I heard it happen, and I dispatched help as fast as I could. And it wasn't fast enough. I still take the night shifts. The pay is better, and I have rent. But I no longer wear my hair pulled back on the left side. Small adjustment. Irrational, probably. Some nights, around midnight, when the control room goes quiet and the fluorescent lights hum their single low note and the phone hasn't rung in 20 minutes, I catch myself looking at the window. Not through it. At it. At the dark glass and what might be pressed against the other side. Watching me do my work, deciding when to call again. The phone has not rung with that voice since. I don't know if that means he's gone or if it means he's patient. I'm not sure which one frightens me more.